Empire State voters. This November, you could decide who controls Congress.
New Yorkers' voices are really going to matter in deciding which way the future of our country goes.
We're fighting for the heart and soul of our country.
And one Democratic representative is trying to make sure Republicans don't flip the White House.
We have to stop Trump.
And his Hudson Valley seat, with his GOP challenger on the attack.
There couldn't be a more stark difference between he and I.
Tonight, hear from Alison Esposito.
All around the district, people are saying that they are hungry for a change.
And incumbent Pat Ryan.
Being rooted in the community is so important, and I think that's what voters and people deserve.
Live, face-to-face, fighting for your vote, with their visions for solving the biggest issues in America today.
Either you have to work harder or find ways to make more money.
We need more employment.
We actually don't have enough housing.
We've got to fix the border, secure the border, restore order there.
They are sick of the sky-high grocery prices. They are sick of the sky-high energy prices. They are sick of being overtaxed.
The cameras are on. The stage is set. The candidates are ready. It's debate night in New York. From your local election headquarters, this is the debate for New York's 18th Congressional District.
And welcome inside the PIX11 studios on this debate night in New York. The two candidates in a race that's being watched around the country are right here, right now. Incumbent Democrat Pat Ryan and challenger, the Republican Alison Esposito. Only one of them will represent New York's 18th Congressional District in the Hudson Valley in the next Congress. I'm Henry Rossoff, and for the next hour, I'll be your moderator for this live debate. And as the candidates give their answers, our Grace Gomez will be following along closely, tweeting live using the hashtag PIX11 NY-18 and working on our post-debate show. Let's briefly go over the rules. Each of you will get 60 seconds to answer a question. For any follow-ups, you will get 30 seconds, and you will have 30 seconds for rebuttals if called upon. The ringing of a bell will be used to signal that your time has expired. And there it is. And with that business out of the way, let's begin with brief opening statements. Mr. Ryan, as the leader in our latest poll, you will get the first statement, and in a few moments, the first question. 30 seconds for your opening, sir.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you're a Yankees or Mets fan, I know you have some other options tonight, but I'm really looking forward to a vigorous, a respectful debate. Allison, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to it. Henry, thanks for hosting. To my 2- and 5-year-old boys, Cam and Theo, hopefully you're watching. Have to give them a shout out at the beginning. And to my wife, Rebecca, I love you. I hope to have the honor to continue to represent this tremendous community.
Mr. Ryan, thank you. Ms. Esposito, you have 30 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting the debate. Thank you to Congressman Ryan. I, too, am looking forward to a spirited debate. We began it already with me going for the Mets and going for the Yankees. I'm going to use a couple of seconds just to introduce myself. My background is not a traditional or career politician. I am a New York City cop. I rose through the ranks and became an inspector and walked away for the same reason I joined, to fight for people, to give a voice who don't have a voice, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. So I'm going to fight for the Hudson Valley.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Thank you both for staying on time. We'll try to keep it that way. Let's begin with an issue that you have both told us and voters keep telling us is very important, the economy. We have seen some signs of strength in the economy, but people are hurting out there. We here at PIX11 did some polling of your district. Here's what it found. 45% said they were worse off financially than they were 1 year ago. 34% said they're doing about the same, and 20% said they're doing better. Mr. Ryan, why do you think some people, a good number of people, are saying they're doing worse, and what can you do in Congress to fix it? 60 seconds.
I agree, Henry. This is the #1 thing I'm hearing when I'm talking to folks across the district. We have to bring down costs. I'm really proud that I've spent 2 years working on this. I'm the one candidate up here who has cut gas taxes when I was county executive, who has lowered property taxes when I was county executive, who is working hard to pass in a bipartisan way with my Republican colleague, Mark Molinaro, the Lowering Grocery Prices Act. We have to bring down food costs, housing costs, huge problem. I just introduced a comprehensive housing agenda to bring down mortgage rates, make sure that Wall Street speculators coming into our community in the Hudson Valley, jacking up prices, that we stop them and prevent that. And we have a lot more work to do. This is my #1 priority, and I hope to continue to be able to work on it going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. And we will get to housing, but first, Ms. Esposito, 60 seconds for you. How would you work to fix the economy in Congress, and why do you think so many people are saying they are worse off? 60 seconds.
They are worse off because it costs more at the pump. It costs more in the grocery store. As I travel the district, I hear from everyone, and some days they have to choose between putting gas in their car or food on their table. Americans are less prosperous because Bidenomics is a failure, because far-left policy that is attacking energy is a failure. We could be energy independent not only in the country, but in New York State, and bringing back jobs. And unfortunately, Green New Deal policies that don't have energy diversification in them, allowing New Yorkers to choose what's best for them. Bureaucratic nonsense like Kathy Hochul saying that there's no gas hookups for new construction is hurting our New Yorkers, and the American dream is slipping away. What we have to do is become energy independent. We have to become more prosperous. We have to lower regulations. We have to lower taxes in New York, and we have to help our struggling Americans.
We're staying with the economy and zeroing in on taxes actually next. Coming to both of you, but first, Ms. Esposito, one of the big drivers of costs for New York property owners is a cap on the state and local tax deduction known as the SALT cap. Yes. The cap was put in place as part of the 2017 Trump-era tax cuts set to expire next year. One of you will be there when we have to decide either new tax policy or to keep the SALT cap. Here's the question, Ms. Esposito. Would you vote for any tax package that does not remove the SALT cap? You have 30 seconds.
I'm absolutely proud of my Republican colleagues for pushing to remove the SALT cap. Donald Trump has said he himself is going to remove the SALT cap. But if you want to talk bipartisan and putting people before power, Congressman Molinaro and Lawler put forth a raise on the SALT cap that was put forth in Congress. My opponent voted against it because they didn't want to give the Republicans a win, because Hakeem Jeffries didn't want the Republicans to win in an election year. That SALT cap could have been raised. It has already been put forth, and my opponent voted against it. This is putting people before power. Our New Yorkers are struggling, and he's not listening.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Mr. Ryan, you can respond, but you have 30 seconds to answer. Would you vote for any tax package that does not include the elimination of the SALT cap?
Absolutely not, and that is not correct, Allison, unfortunately. I am part of the bipartisan SALT caucus, working aggressively to make sure we eliminate what is double taxation. That's what the SALT cap is. People, hardworking people, middle-class people, double taxed because of Donald Trump's plan. He's the one that put this in place, unfortunately. And for the last 5 years, as I've served this community, I've seen my community, myself included, punished for this. We have to get rid of it.
Mr. Ryan, thank you very much. Ms. Esposito, you'll have a chance to respond because we're staying with the topic here, but the next question does go to Mr. Ryan. There's been a lot of discussion about taxes this election cycle. Both presidential candidates want to end taxes on tips. Former President Trump has favored raising tariffs, and Vice President Harris has proposed an expanded child tax credit, to name a few of the plans. Which, if any, of the big tax reforms out there do you think will make things more affordable for people of the Hudson Valley? You have 30 seconds.
Well, and again, when I was county executive, I'm proud we cut property taxes to the lowest level in 40 years. That's the same ethos that I brought to Congress. We have a big decision to make. Do we want to continue big tax breaks for billionaires and big corporations that we've had because of that Trump plan? Or are we going to finally make the ultra wealthy pay their fair share? That's the tax plan that I support, and specifically expanding the child tax credit is so important from an economic and a moral perspective.
Mr. Ryan, thank you. Ms. Esposito, your chance to respond, but if you could please answer the question, which, if any, of the major tax proposals do you support? 30 seconds.
New York's tax base is leaving because we are overtaxed and overregulated. And if the congressman really believed in the removal of the SALT cap, he would have voted for that bill, which he did not. He failed to put New Yorkers first. I am fine with no tax on tip. In fact, I don't think that Social Security should be taxed. That is not an entitlement. Our seniors worked hard for that. They paid into it. They played the game. They played by the rules. That is their money. We have to lower the tax burden on our New Yorkers and our Americans if they're going to be prosperous and succeed.
Well, I told you we'd get to affordable housing. Let's move there next. In the 3 counties that make up your district, we crunched the numbers. The median home sold price has gone up a lot over the last 2 years. Let's look at the numbers. Up by $48,000 in Orange County, up by $66,000 in Ulster County, up by $72,000 in Dutchess County. That's according to Realtor.com. Rental prices have also steadily risen at the same time. Ms. Esposito, what specific policies would you support in Congress to build more affordable housing? You have 60 seconds.
The American dream is slipping away, and we have to lower the price of everything. As I traveled the district and as I traveled the state in the prior election, I heard from people that my children can't live here, so I'm not going to get to see my grandbabies raised here because we're overtaxed, we're overregulated, and there's just no availability of affordable housing because everything is expensive. But we can't paint all of New York with the same broad brush that Kathy Hochul wants to do or federal task forces want to do. New York City is very different than my home district, and I very much believe in local control. We have to be lowering taxes, stopping our attack on energy, and making people more prosperous, bringing jobs back to the Hudson Valley so that people can afford to live here. Plus, we have to stop the out of control spending that brought inflation to a 40-year high, making groceries ridiculous to afford, making gas prices ridiculous to afford. We have to help our struggling Americans, and that's not what's happening with Bidenomics and far-left politicians that are overtaxing us.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Mr. Ryan, I know you touched on this a little bit, but if you want to outline some of the specific affordable housing plans that you would do in Congress, 60 seconds.
And I agree with a lot of what Alison said. What I didn't hear, though, unfortunately, was any actual specific housing policy. This is something I've worked really hard on, both as county exec and now in Congress. I actually just authored 4 specific bills to bring down housing costs and boost housing supply for veterans, for seniors, for working people, and also co-sponsored 7 others as part of a comprehensive housing agenda. The details and the specifics matter, and understanding this at the ground level. So, for example, I called on the Fed, and they listened to lower interest rates, bringing down mortgage costs and bringing down rents. I introduced a bill to make sure Wall Street speculators coming into the Hudson Valley, and I've seen this firsthand, buying up homes, are prevented from doing that. There's several other pieces to it. I'm getting the 15-second cue, but would love to continue if I can get a few more minutes to talk about all the other specific pieces on housing.
We are ending this section. Ms. Esposito, I think you were asking for a response here. You can have 30 seconds.
We have to bring down overall prices for our Americans. They are struggling every day. And the people in the Hudson Valley, like I said, are struggling to put food on the table or gas in their car. And if we don't lower taxes, regulations, and support small businesses, we're never going to be allowed to or able to give them the American dream that was promised to us, and it's very unfortunate. And
Mr. Ryan will get the last word here, 30 seconds, and then we are moving on.
I do just think it's important in a policy debate to note, unfortunately, still no specific housing policy for my opponent.
Let's go ahead and talk about the widening conflict in the Middle East now. A hard pivot here, but just 2 days ago, we, of course, marked the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th terror attack by Hamas on Israel. It killed 1,200 people. 250 hostages were also taken on that day. The ensuing fighting has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians. And just last week, Iran fired missiles at Israel. It was in retaliation for the targeting of terrorists in Lebanon. The United States helped shoot down some of those missiles. Mr. Ryan, we're beginning with you this time. Should U.S. troops be on the ground in the region? 60 seconds.
We already have some troops on the ground in the Middle East. I spent 27 months myself in combat in Iraq. We should not be committing, to be clear, additional troops at this time. That's one of my main reasons that I ran for Congress and I'm so proud to serve, is making sure that our young men and women, and when I especially go to West Point and I look those cadets in the eye, we owe them making sure that we are really serious in doing all the thinking before we, God forbid, send them to harm's way. We are thankfully, with the forces on the ground, standing strongly and firmly with our critical ally, Israel, with whom we share both values and interests. As they're facing incredibly unprecedented attacks from Iran, we need to increase the pressure and rigor in deterring Iran and stand strongly with Israel, and of course do everything that we can to try to stop the loss of innocent civilian life in these conflicts.
Mr. Ryan, a quick follow-up before I come to you, Ms. Esposito. Is there anything or any action Israel could take that would make you lose support for the Jewish state? 30 seconds.
Not that I can think of.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Esposito, the same initial question that I asked him. Would you be in favor of committing additional U.S. ground troops in the Middle East right now? 60 seconds.
At this point, no. I don't want to put any of our troops into harm's way unnecessarily. And like the Congressman said, we already have troops in harm's way, and I thank them and him for his service. But we must stand with our ally, Israel. And again, this is when the Congressman does one thing and says another, and it's really unfortunate. Israel is our greatest ally. And this war could end tomorrow if Hamas would lay down its weapons, surrender, and release our hostages. We have American hostages over there. But the Congressman, time and again, has voted against additional aid or against aid to Israel. Happened right after the October 7th incident happened. And then a standalone bill, again, he voted against. He's voted against condemning anti-Semitism. He has called for a ceasefire. We have to support our staunch ally, Israel, because Hamas isn't just calling for the end of Israel. They're calling for the destruction of America. And we have to stand strong against terrorism on all its fronts.
Mr. Ryan, I'm coming to you for a response, but the same sort of button-up question that I asked him first, please. Is there any action that Israel could take that would make you lose support for the Jewish state? Up to 30 seconds.
No, Israel has every right to defend itself right now, and they are doing so as carefully as they possibly can to avoid any further loss of human life. But we need those hostages back, and if Hamas laid down their weapons, this war would be over. Mr. Ryan, you have 30 seconds for a response, sir.
I agree. I've been working incredibly hard. I'm proud to serve on the Armed Services Committee to bring home our hostages. In fact, over the weekend, I spoke with 2 different families from our Hudson Valley community that are still missing their loved ones due to the horrific, barbaric attacks of Hamas. So to those families, to Maurice and the Schneider family, to the Weinstein-Hagai family, we and I are going to continue to fight to get our hostages home.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Esposito, coming to you next. You're both running in a district. Mr. Ryan just mentioned it, no small amount of Jewish constituents. Ms. Esposito, aside from supporting Israel, what do you see as the dominant needs of the Jewish community that you wish to serve? 30 seconds.
Well, right now, anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. And when we have a sitting congressman that fails to call out what's happening on college campuses, even within our own district, or the taking over of bridges, even within our own district, with people burning the Israeli flag, burning the American flag, calling for death to Israel and death to America. When Jewish students don't feel safe to go to school because of hate crimes, this has to be condemned in the highest force, and we have to speak out against it. Every Jewish person in our district and in America deserves to feel safe.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Mr. Ryan, I know you want to respond here, but also what do you see as the top needs of the Jewish community? 30 seconds.
I spend a lot of time with our Jewish community. I would like to address what's just absolutely untrue there, but I think more importantly, to answer the question, I agree. Dealing with a tremendous spike in anti-Semitism is absolutely existential for our Jewish community and for the health of our whole country. The other piece is our Jewish communities are rapidly growing. I've been working to deliver millions of dollars in infrastructure funding, healthcare funding, other critical needs as the Jewish community, and proudly so, grows in our district.
And Mr. Ryan, I will give you 30 more seconds because I did ask you a question and you wanted to respond. So you can take 30 seconds if you want to respond to some of the claims, sir.
I appreciate it. You know, with all respect, Alison, I think you just moved to this community to run for this office.
That is absolutely
And if you
untrue.
had actually spent time in the district talking to any of our constituents, especially Jewish constituents, you would know I have firmly stood with them. In fact, my own district office was violently attacked because of that stance that I've taken. So I just think, unfortunately, your information is incorrect.
And Ms. Esposito, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Which is why he learned his lesson to thread the line. I do want to address it, not living here. I grew up in Orange County, and I built my home in Goshen 20 years ago. I have been in Orange County for most of my life, and it's absolutely ludicrous. Again, Pat Ryan has nothing to stand on, no positive outcomes to stand on, no policies to stand on. So he is going to resort to lying and hope that the American public buys it. But I don't think they're going to. I've been in the district talking to people, and I've lived there for 20 years.
We are going to move on. We've had some back and forth here. The next question is coming to you, but I do want to prime it with another topic because we do need to get through a lot here. On immigration, it's the #3 concern of voters in our polling in the district. The Biden administration has twice this year clamped down on asylum processing at the border, but you both have told us that more needs to be done. You've said that a few times already. Mr. Ryan, do you support any of the Trump-era restrictions, such as remain in Mexico, as a path forward to help fix the border? 60 seconds.
I do think it's important to make clear, and I would ask Alison to answer this, did you not register to vote in our district a few days before you ran for office? We can come back to that. On the importance of securing our border, I'm one of very few Democrats, proudly so, who has from day one called on and called out President Joe Biden for failing to secure our border, said we have to restore order at our border. I stood with my Republican colleagues to the north and south, Mark Molinaro, Mike Lawler, and said we need to declare a state of emergency in New York because of this crisis. And then I worked in a bipartisan way to co-sponsor and lead the Dignity Act in the House, which would put more border security agents on our borders, stop fentanyl from coming into our community, and also work to push the bipartisan Senate deal, which unfortunately got torpedoed for political reasons right at the moment when we cannot afford to not make sure our border is secure.
And Ms. Esposito, I'm coming to you for a response here, but if you could, Mr. Ryan, 15 seconds, you didn't quite address the question. Are there any Trump-era policies that are part of the solution here?
Yeah, I think there, for example, some of the things that, thanks to my call and about 20 other of my fellow Democrats, we called on President Biden to restrict the asylum numbers that were able to come in. Over the summer, he finally listened to us. The numbers have now come down 80%. That was, one of the policies that former President Trump agreed with.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Esposito, let's start by giving you 30 seconds to respond here, and then I'd like to continue. Then let's move on and continue this discussion on immigration, which voters say is important. So a response, and then let's keep going with immigration.
Sure. Yes, I was registered to vote in the elections in New York City because as a commander in the NY-18, it made a lot of sense for me to vote for the mayor. I rented an apartment in the city, and I'm looking forward to renting one in Washington after I win this election. But to address the sanctuary...
If you could, please, I do want to frame a question. I appreciate you trying to get us on topic, but let me frame a question here if I could. So Senate Republicans did block a bipartisan border deal not too long ago, and President Biden has said that is an example of your party not wanting to solve this problem. Do you support any of the policies in that bipartisan bill as part of your solutions you're putting forward? 60 seconds to respond.
What we need to understand here is that my opponent, Pat Ryan, was the Ulster County executive, and during that time, he made Ulster County a sanctuary county, refusing to cooperate with ICE and law enforcement. Pat Ryan has repeatedly voted against border security. May of 2023, H.R. 2, a secure border bill, a standalone border bill that would have secured our border, funded our border patrol agents, and continued to remain in Mexico and continued with the border wall. He voted against that. There were so many people that died between now and then. How much fentanyl has come over the border? He voted against the SAVE Act, which would have required illegals or people to show proof of residency, proof of citizenship to vote. He even voted against the Laken-Riley Act. This is a man who is not serious about border security. He references a Senate bill that never came out because it would have codified reckless and dangerous Biden policies that were put in by executive order and allowed 5,000 illegal immigrants to cross a day. It's unsustainable, and the congressman is not serious about fixing this.
Mr. Ryan, you have up to 30 seconds to respond.
Unfortunately, this is the exact rhetoric but not actual results that we've been dealing with in Washington for the last 2 years on this issue and a lot of other issues. There's one bipartisan border security and immigration reform bill in the House. Note the emphasis on bipartisan. The only way to fix these big problems in our country is to actually work together. Not as partisans, but as patriots. The Dignity Act, which my colleague Mike Lawler, Republican, is on as well, is that bipartisan bill. And if you're not on that bill...
Mr. Ryan, thank you very much. Ms. Esposito, coming to you on the topic, but I do want to again frame things up. Former President Trump has promised to oversee, quote, the largest deportation in the history of the country. Do you agree with that tactic? And if so, how should it be carried out? 60 seconds to continue this conversation.
Once again, Pat Ryan had the chance to vote for border security, and he wants to tout a Senate bill that never came out of the Senate. He had the chance to secure our border with H.R. 2. He failed to take it. He put party and power before people once again. In reference to the deportation, look, it's not rocket science. We need to be holding criminals accountable for their actions. And it's unsustainable, the amount of people that are in the country right now illegally. We don't know who they are. They haven't been vetted. We don't know if they're here for nefarious purposes or they're here for a better life. Now, we have to work on immigration reform, absolutely. We welcome immigration the correct way, but that's not what's being done right now. And once we have criminals in our country, yes, we have to deport gang members. Yes, we have to deport people that are committing crimes. Yes, we have to deport people that are preying on our innocent Americans. We have to do this because it's unsustainable. We have to make sure our people are safe and prosperous. And right now, the Biden-era administration, the Harris administration, is not doing that.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Mr. Ryan, you actually get the last word in this section, but I want to frame up the topic again. You've accused Republicans of, quote, fear-mongering on this issue, specifically during a Zoom call discussing polling about a month ago. Let's all take a listen, and I want to get your comment.
Border and immigration, which I think is a broad category for this kind of like public safety, fear-mongering, the impacts of the fear-mongering that Republicans have been doing. That is number one.
Mr. Ryan, how do you explain the comment to constituents who have concerns about what's happening at the border and about the migrants coming into New York? You have 60 seconds to respond to what Ms. Esposito said and to answer the question, please.
Yeah, look, again, I've talked about this throughout. There's rhetoric and divisive tactics and language, and then there's people that actually want to fix the problem. What I was talking about there, what I've been very open about, is right now Congress is not working on a bunch of issues, including, as your polling shows, Henry, one of the top concerns for my constituents and for this district, which is securing our border and restoring order at our border. Unfortunately, for my opponent and most Republicans in the House, although there's a few that don't approach it this way, there is a lot of heated rhetoric, divisive language, but no actual work to negotiate. And the reason I keep talking about this Senate bill, and the reason it was covered widely nationally, is you had one of the most conservative senators do that work to negotiate, and then Trump came in and said, no, we don't like that. You want to talk about politics? That was one of the most political things and one of the most damaging things. That would have been a historic legislation that I would have proudly voted for.
Mr. Ryan, I promise you the last word there. We've had a robust back and forth, but we need to go ahead and take a quick break. There are plenty more questions ahead, and make sure you stick around for our Debate Night in New York post show. That'll be streaming on PIX11.com and PIX11 Plus. You can see Grace Gomez hard at work, live tweeting, preparing right there. Next, we're going to go ahead and tackle both abortion and gun safety and flooding and much more back in 90 seconds.